Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show, the best show on the internet. This is the RR Show. If you're here, you must love it, and if you love it, you must follow it. So please, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you may be, make sure you hit that follow button. And if you've got a second, go on, I know you have, leave us a cheeky little review as well. Today, I've got a good one for you, so it's worth it. We're jumping into something I don't think we've been into before. This is r/NeighborsFromHell. Our first story is from u/disgruntled veteran, so grab your tea and your popcorn as we jump in with his first story. My pool is not a motel room. A little bit of background. I'm a combat veteran and a school teacher at this time, and my wife was a school teacher as well. So I bought my first house 12 years ago. It was in a low middle-class neighborhood with a lot of working-class families. My house had a pool in the backyard, and my parents bought me and my wife a hot tub as a wedding or housewarming gift. 2 weeks after moving in, we found a stranger and 6 teenage kids swimming in our pool when we got home. We will call them entitled mum, entitled daughter, entitled son, and the others I assume to be their friends and or boyfriend. Entitled daughter was about 18 or 19 years old and her brother about 17. When we told them to get out and get off our property, the entitled mum told me that the previous owner had given them permission to come over whenever they wanted to swim. I explained to her I was the new owner and that I was not okay with that. I told entitled mother that not only do I not know them, but there is a legal liability for me if they got hurt. She yelled and fake cried, saying that I was being a bad neighbor, selfish, and forcing her kids to sweat in the summer heat. She told me that if they died of heat stroke, it was my fault for not letting them swim in my pool. I told her to get the fuck off my property and to never return. Fast forward 2 weeks, I'd put up a no trespassing sign on my property in multiple spots and had gotten to know many of the not so entitled neighbors. They were great and told me to just ignore entitled mother and her kids. They told us she was already bad-mouthing us, but no one ever believed her anyway. Now I start to notice when I wake up in the morning that there is evidence of people using my pool and hot tub at night when we're sleeping or away. I find beer cans, cigarette butts, and even a used condom. I figure it has to be entitled mother and or her brats. So, I install cameras on the grounds and start videotaping. Sure enough, I catch entitled daughter and a few others hanging out in my pool Friday nights when me and my wife are out. Friday nights, she goes to a friend's house for movies and wine, and I play Warhammer 40k or card games. I figure they must have been waiting for us to leave and then threw a mini party or were quietly swimming while we slept. So I discussed it with my wife and decided to teach EM and her brats a lesson. So the next Friday night, I park my car a street over and my wife does the same. We wait in the dark house to see if any of them come over. Entitled daughter, and I assume her boyfriend, entitled son, and I assume his girlfriend, and 4 other teen couples come right over and start skinny dipping in my pool and hot tub. Why a brother and sister would do this together still bothers me. They have a beer and I can smell the weed from inside the house. I wait 45 minutes for them to get really into their fun, and 2 are actually having sex in my pool. Then, I spring my trap. I go out with my rifle, Ruger Mini 14 20-round magazine for the gun enthusiasts like me, pointed at the ground but at ready. When I reach the pool, my wife flips on the back lights and I yell for them to freeze or I'll shoot. My wife calls the police meanwhile. They all have the deer in their headlights look on their faces, and not one of them tries to speak for at least a good minute. The entitled daughter starts to tell us that she has permission to be there and that we need to let them get dressed. I tell them that if they move towards me or their property, I would consider them charging me or reaching for a weapon, and I would shoot them. They must have believed me because they froze. One girl begged me to give her her clothes while she was trying to cover her breasts with her hands. Not being a total jerk, I say I'll throw them all their clothing. I then walk over to their piles of clothing, their phones, their purses, and I throw everything into the pool. They freak out, trying to save their phones and other goods. After 10 minutes, the police show up and they have the kids climb out of the pool wearing their soaked clothes and trying to shake their phones dry. I show the police the videos from our cameras and the no trespassing signs and explain to them that I had told them and their mother that they were persona non grata. The kids were arrested for trespassing, possession of a controlled substance, underage drinking, and indecent exposure. The police recommended that next time I leave the gun in the safe and let them just come and get them. I told them that I thought they may attack my wife and had to stand my ground. I proved that I never pointed at them with the videos, so I couldn't be charged with anything. As the kids were being loaded into the police cruiser, entitled mother shows up yelling at the police and my wife and I. She demands that the police let them go and even tries to open the door on one of the cruisers. The police threaten her with being arrested if she doesn't back off and leave my wife and I alone. I later found out that the charges against the teens were reduced as they all took plea deals. They all got community service, fines, and were put on probation. We got a restraining order against entitled mother and her brats so they couldn't bother us again. I sent a bill to entitled mother for the cost of draining, disinfecting, and refilling my pool and having a professional cleaning service clean up the kids' mess. The bill was for about $400. I had my parents' attorney send it to entitled mother with a letter stating that if it's not paid within 30 days, then we would sue her for a larger amount. She sent a check to my attorney, and thankfully it did not bounce. About a year later, the entire entitled family moved away, and we never heard from them again. Our next story today is from Ulfur. You only picked up 98% of your dog's poop? $2,000, please. So, I just had an interesting conversation with a neighbor I'd never seen or spoken with before. He lives a few houses down and has a wooden lot between his house and the next. A couple nights ago, my dog decided he needed to poop in the woods next to this guy's house. Don't know if the neighbor owns the lot or what, but after my pup had done his business, I used my phone as a flashlight and bagged his turd for disposal at home. A couple hours ago, I was throwing the ball for my dogs and minding my own business when someone walked up to my house with a manila envelope in his hand. My who the fluff senses were tingling, and he actually looked more nervous realizing I was outside. He identified himself as the man who lived 3 houses down and started rambling. I won't give you a play-by-play because there was a lot of backpedaling and stammering, but here's what this man actually thought was going to happen. He says he knows my dog pooped on his property, and he knows I cleaned most of it up, but I didn't clean up all of it, and he'd like $2,000 to cover the cost of the tiny turdling I left on his land. He actually had an entire presentation in the envelope. Night vision pictures of me walking my dog pooping, me bagging the turd and walking away. Also had a bunch of pictures of the scene of the crime, complete with a little yellow foldy number thingy they use on CSI to identify bits of evidence to show where the turd lay, and the leaf my dog had kicked on top of it. Also contained an itemized receipt of all the money he'd spent on catching whoever was scooping poop on his property, including a night vision motion activated camera, $800, the $500 camera he purchased to play dog poop detective, $20 on the evidence thingies, and a bunch of other random crap. And when he realized he was close to a nice round number, he added in the remainder under the heading emotional distress. I told the guy I'm really sorry, I missed a tiny little bit, but I'm not paying you $2,000 because I missed a bit of poop smaller than an M&M. I'll make sure we walk on the other side of the street from now on. He got a bit huffy, but saw I was not going to be giving in, and he goes on a tirade about all of these people leaving shit on his lawn. When I remained unmoved by his passionate ranting, he said he'd see me in court. I waved him by. Maybe he'll have better luck with some other chump. Well guys, thanks so much for listening. Make sure you are following along. Go hit that follow button now before jumping into the next episode, or check out one of our older episodes. We have a lot of them. Until next time guys, peace out. Take care.